Om Shruti Shruti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad Padam Shankaram Loka Shankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Kritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punaha Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavat Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Namah Pranavarthaya Shuddha Jnanaikamurtaye Nirmalaya Prashantaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै ओम शांति 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 यथा दर्शेयत् तथात्मनि
यथा
यथा
दर्शे
दर्शे
तथात्मनि
तथात्मनि
यथा स्वप्ने तथा पितृलोके
यथा
यथा
स्वप्ने
स्वप्ने
तथा
तथा
पितृलोके
पितृलोके
यथा सुपरीव ददृशे
यथा
यथा
सुपरीव ददृशे
परिव ददृशे
तथा गंधर्वलोके
तथा
तथा
गन्धर्वलोके
गन्धर्वलोके
छाया तपयोरिव ब्रह्मलोके
छाया
छायातपो
तपयोरिव
इव
ब्रह्मलोके
ब्रह्मलोके
Shruti tells us that Manushya Janma is rare, difficult to get. One gains this after perhaps many thousands of Janmas. But having got this Janma, this is the only Janma which has some very special characteristics. It is a mixture of Punya Papa. Therefore, a Manushya life is always fraught with sorrow, always fraught with a mixture of sorrow and sukha, kabhi sukha, kabhi dukha. Also endowed with a self-consciousness, a self-awareness. Every jiva has self-consciousness. Every jiva, including trees and plants, have a very broad definition of self-consciousness and have very strong survival built into them. You have many times, I'm sure all of you have seen trees bending to get the sunlight for their survival. Roots spreading if they can't find water and nourishment. There is a certain amount of self-awareness, self-consciousness. Animals perhaps have slightly bit more, at least visibly to us. They have self-consciousness to the extent of recognizing their own jati. A Persian cat does not sit high and mighty with respect to a street cat. But it recognizes the cat as a cat. A tiny chihuahua, which is like a pocket edition of a dog, which people in fact carry in their coat pocket, does not think it is any different from a Great Dane, a huge dog. They recognize the species. But they don't have any self-conscious to the extent saying, that guy is so big, I'm so small. They don't seem to have that kind of a complex. They don't have a big complex if they win a blue ribbon at the Kennel Club. Who has that consciousness? The human owner. My dog won the dog show. That dog which won the dog show doesn't care. They all have consciousness, a self-awareness, but we humans are always comparing. उसकी कमीज मेरी कमीज से ज्यादा सफेद क्यों? You know, there was an ad for, I think it was Rin many years ago. Why is his shirt whiter than my shirt? I wish I had his voice. I wish I had his musical talent. Always comparing. Here I'm superior, here I'm inferior. By and large, most humans look at things where they lack. This becomes the motive force for the human being to say, how can I better myself? Because I see that fellow, he's got a sick pack. I have a Madhya Pradesh. How can I improve? So we make an effort. And because we have that comparative mind, which is a problem in one way, but is also the one that drives you to say, how can I better myself? In certain aspects of Laukika, he has a big car. I have only a old Maruti 800, still runs. I have to get a big car. Work towards it. This pressure to improve oneself continues. All humans have this. And can never stop. It can never stop because there's always someone better at something than you. As long as you think of one thinks of oneself as the body mind sense complex, there's always somebody better than you. Children play a game called stone, paper, and scissors. I don't know how many of you have seen this children play. So if you do this, it's scissor. It can cut paper, so it's superior to paper. But the stone, this, can damage the scissor. So stone is superior to scissor. But the paper can wrap the stone. Therefore, paper is superior to stone. So you can keep going around. Always something is better than you in some aspect. I remember, I don't know who wrote that poem. When I was in school, I read a poem where you wish, the author talks about wishing I was something else. I was the sun because the sun beats down and then the cloud covers the sun. Then I was the cloud. I wish I was the cloud. Then becomes the cloud. The cloud is blown away by the air. So I wish I was the wind. Like that, the whole thing goes on and on. At some point, humans realize that this is a never-ending game. Where is the problem? The problem is right in the beginning, on the assumption that I is this Karya Karana Sanghata, the body-mind sense complex. With that as the basis, this will never end. Even though the human being does not recognize this, the capacity to analyze and say, look, this is a never-ending process. Either I accept it as a never-ending process, I continue to be in this way all the time, or I question, is there something better? Is there some way I can get out of this paper, scissors, stone cycle? Somebody is better than somebody else, and somebody else is better than somebody else. You look at who is the most powerful man in the world today? The president of the most powerful country in the world. Look at his situation, poor fellow. One might aspire to the highest that you can see, but that highest has also got problems. Subject to all kinds of problems. He wants to call the JFK Center for Arts Trump Center for Arts. But there are other people who thwart him. Don't let him do that. He starts a war thinking that he will finish the assumed enemy within a matter of days. The enemy seems to have a lot of tricks up his sleeve. He's got to find a way of saving face and getting out of this. So there's no point aspiring to be the president of the United States, the most powerful man perhaps on the earth. At some point of time, a human being recognizes this, saying that this is going to be endless. And this, if it has to come to a stop, I have to find where can I find the answer. Either one, like I said, accepts it, saying this is the way life is. I've just got to have to do this, and I will constantly try to improve myself. Or I accept that I can't improve myself ever to the point where there's nobody higher than me. At which time he might take to drinking. Yeah? Or he might say, no, there has to be an answer somewhere. And that ability to search and go into quest for that answer is available to the human being. All starts with the simple fact that the human being is a mixture of punya karma and papa karma. Therefore, like when you go into the sun, hot sun, these days north of India Bharat is going through enormous heat wave. And when you go out for some time and then come back into the shade, my God, what a beautiful thing to happen. Therefore, you know the difference, the heat and shade. Therefore, you can say, is there a way I can get into a situation where I don't have to go into the great difficulty of being in that sun? Because I'm able to compare. What happened in other lokas? Shastra tells us. Shastra tells us whether you are a devata in Pitraloka, in Gandharva Loka, in whatever other loka, you are only a bhokta. What does that mean? That means you really don't have a comparison. You are a bhokta because you are in that kind of loka where there is only sukha bhoga. In that kind of situation, one doesn't really want to start questioning. Similarly, in the animal kingdom, they are only a bhokta, but dukkha bhokta. No comparison. No dog ever looks at another dog which has been taken as a pet by a human being. I have to go lie down in the shade of the tree, go hunting for some food every day. I have children throw stones at me. Why can't I be like that dog, which is a pedigree dog, sleeps in an air-conditioned room, has his favorite food brought to him, and at time of mating is taken to the female. Everything is done for him. Yes, do nothing. This dog does not say, why is my lot like this? Why can't I be like that dog? But a human being will always say, because an animal or a devata, they're only bhokta. They go into that sphere to exhaust their karma, punya karma or papa karma. Human being is the one who questions, saying, why am I being subjected to the sorrow? At that time, all these management gurus will tell you, you make a list of all the nice things that are happening to you on one page and all the not so nice things happening to you on another page. You will find this list is much bigger than this list. No, I don't want to go. I have all this nonsense, 6 things which are troubling me. How can I get rid of them? That quest will hopefully take the individual to seek answers and to find out where is this answer available. And if he is a Manushya who also has access to this knowledge, something clicks and says, the rishis knew something more than I do. You look at the lives of people you look up to. Mahaperiyava, Ramana Maharshi. From the outside, their life looks very tough. And yet they seem to be totally content. What happens? What makes them content? Don't they go through the kind of sorrow that I go through? Physical sorrow, yes. Emotional sorrow, yes. But they don't seem to be affected by it at all in any way. So instead of questioning, saying, how come that guy has more wealth than I have? How come that guy has more facilities than I have? How come that guy has more skills than I have? The comparison changes to saying, how is this person managed to keep himself or herself content all the time? Dukkha is not gone. You're a Manushya, you would have dukkha. That comparison becomes important. Therefore, Manushya, when he starts looking at that in detail, his own punya takes him to a guru, to access to this knowledge, which says, yes, it's of course possible. How do you think these people are so content with everything? Nothing seems to bother them. Because they know something you don't know. What is that? I want to know that. I am therefore the Jignasu. And if once that one latches on to the Shastra and says, that is where the answer is going to come from, latches on to a guru and says, he is the one who is going to unfold it for me, you're set. Then you look at what Shastra says. You have to know the Atma, know the self. That is the only answer. But how do I know the self? In the same breath, you tell me that self is not available for you for knowledge by any of the senses. You're right? It is not. Therefore, what do I do? Atmavare Yatavyam. Atmavare Shrotavyam. Atmavare Mantavyam. Atmavare Nididhyasitavyam. Shastra is very clear. So once one has Shraddha in what the Shastra says, after that it's a matter of just being consistent in searching for that. This plus and minus of a human being not available to anybody else. Even among human beings, look at this. A person who is physically comfortable doesn't have many physical, has a lot of wealth. Very few of them start looking deeper into the saying, despite having this, why am I subject to sorrow? Very few do that. Who are the ones who do that? It is really the ones who have both. Sukha dukkha, sukha dukkha, sukha dukkha, sukha dukkha, sukha dukkha. They are the ones who start looking. Therefore, no other place Shastra tells us, can you get this? Yata darshe atmani, tathatmani, yata swapne, tata pitraloke. This knowledge is not available in Pitraloka. Not with any clarity. It is like a swapna knowledge. Hazy, vague, forgettable. Yata apsu pariva tadrishe, tata gandharvaloke. Gandharvaloka, Shastra says, is a wonderful place, full of music and dance all the time. But in the Loka also, this knowledge is not available. Not with any clarity. The way it is available there is like a wavy or dirty water, reflection in wavy or dirty water. That means you can never get it. One other Loka where you can possibly get this knowledge with some clarity, Chaya tapayoho iva. Like Chaya and Atapaya. Chaya, or darkness, shade, and light. That kind of clarity is available in Brahmaloka. It is there, but you first have to get to Brahmaloka. How are you going to get to Brahmaloka? Bhashyakara tells us a little bit more about what the Mula says. So he told us that Atma Rupam Pariva Dadrishe, Paridrishyata Iva, in the various lokas. Tatha Gandharva Loke Aviviktameva Darshanam Atmanaha. The vision of Atma in any other loka, Gandharva Loke, Aviviktam, unclear. And this is something which needs absolute clarity to understand. We have seen this, our own clarity, how it is changing by the day as we listen, do mananam more and more and more. Evancha
Evam cha
lokantareshu
Lokantareshu
api.
lokantareshu.
This is not where it is. Can you put it out there, please? There. Evancha lokantareshu api
Evancha
Evam cha
lokantareshu
lokantareshu
api
api
shastra pramanyat avagamyate.
shastra
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 pramanyat
pramanyat
avagamyate
avagamyate.
Shastra pramanat
Shastra
Shastra pramanat
gamyate.
avagamyate.
avagamyate.
In the same way, as was shown that in various lokas, Pitraloka, Gandharva Loka, etc., you cannot get the clarity of this knowledge. Other lokas also same thing. You know there are many lokas. There are 14 lokas according to Shastra. Evancha, in the same way, lokantareshu, in all the other lokas, lokantareshu api, there also, they understand it the same way, avagamyate, in a hazy, unclear way only. How do you know? Bhashyakara says, Shastra Pramanya. So says Shastra. Once you accept Shastra as a Pramana, Shastra says, because we don't know anybody who's gone to any of the loka and come back. At least not in the same form. He comes back perhaps, but we don't know. And he doesn't remember anything. There are, however, a few odd cases where a child remembers a previous birth on this earth. But even there, they don't remember where they went up before this. So we don't know. How do we then get to know this? Only through Shastra Pramana. Shastra Pramana. Shastra Pramanat, Pramanyat, Avagamyate. We know from Shastra Pramana that every other loka has the same issue. You cannot get a clear vision. There is one exception though. What is the exception? Chaya tapayoho iva
Chaya
Chaya
tapayoho
tapayoho
iva
iva
atyanta viviktam
atyanta
atyanta
viviktam
viviktam
brahmaloke eva ekasmin
brahmaloke eva
brahmaloke eva
ekasmin
ekasmin
ekasmin brahmaloke eva. Only in that one loka out of the 14 lokas, Brahmaloka is the only one where Chaya tapayoho iva, like light and darkness, Atyanta viviktam is available. Atyanta viviktam. Viviktam is clarity, absolute clarity. Clarity of the jnanam. That aham brahmasmi, tattvamasi. That clarity, that understanding is available possibly in Brahmaloka. In fact, even there, how do you get that clarity? This clarity, I'm sure all of you can relate to this now, cannot be got without a guru who's understood this, unfolding it for me. What's going to happen in Brahmaloka? I go to Brahmaloka and request Brahmaji, I've come here with a lot of difficulty. I've sacrificed a whole lot of things on the earth to come to Brahmaloka. I followed every strict injunction given by the Vedas. I have lived a life full of karma, full of upasana, as prescribed. And I am fortunate to have come here. I wanted to come here because, Brahmaji, I know you know the truth and you can teach me. Will you teach me, please? Like Nachiketa asked Yamadharmaraja, this person who goes to Brahmaloka asks Brahmaji. Then after a few preliminaries, Brahmaji says, sit down. What do you want to know? I want to know the truth. I want to do that jnanam, which liberates, which gives me moksha. Tattvamasi. Tattvamasi. I heard that there also, no? I thought I'll come to Brahmaloka with a lot of difficulty. You'll tell me something bigger, something more. Tattvamasi. There is nothing bigger, nothing more available. You are Purna. If we have the patience, if we have the thinking, if we have the commitment, over a period of time we'll understand this. But that is the only truth. This is what somebody down there on the earth also told me. That is all there is. There is nothing else. Brahmaji says, Tattvamasi. My God, how much effort I made, how much difficulties I went through to come to Brahmaloka. I could have got it there itself. Yes, you could have. Why do you want to come to Brahmaloka for this? Brahmaji can give you nothing more than what your Guru can give you on the earth. Evancha androkantaru. Chaya tapayo eva antyanta viviktam brahmaloke eva ekasmin. But how many people can make it to Brahmaloka? How easy is it to make it to Brahmaloka? We don't know by experience. We only have to depend on the Shastra to tell us that. And what does Shastra say? You follow a rigid, strict regimen of life. Your day is completely accounted for. You do all the karmas, starting from Sandhya Vandanam to Agnihotra to Vajpayee, everything you do. And you do upasana without error, without mistake. Whole lifetime you do only that. You can't in between say, I'm going to take a break, I'm going on a vacation to Hawaii. You don't have that option. Not only whole life, maybe several lives before you can come to a stage where one can get to Brahmaloka. So Bhashyakara says, Sacha dushprapaha.
Sacha dushprapaha.
Dushprapaha. Dukkhena prapaha. You can't get it easily. Very tough. Well nigh impossible to get to Brahmaloka. Brahmaloka is the loka where the highest form of sukha is available. If everybody could get there easily, everybody would go there easily. Why would not everybody want to go there? Extremely tough. Such a dushprapaha. Getting to Brahmaloka is extremely tough, extremely difficult. Why? Atyanta vishishta karma jnana sadhyatvat.
Atyanta Visishta Karma Jnana Sadhyatvat.
Sadhyatvat.
Because a whole lot of Visheshana karma have to be done. Atyanta Vishishta. Like I said, all kind of karma is prescribed. Atyanta Vishishta karma and jnana. Jnana here means upasana. Has to be done. It will account for almost all 24 hours of a day. Every day. Every week. So you're 24/7, week after week after week after week after week, you have to do extremely tough karma and upasana. You can't in between say, one cricket match is there, India, Australia final is being played. Can you take a break and watch that? No time. Atyanta Vishishta Karma Jnana Sadhyatvat. It is you can gain that prapti, sadhyam, only by going through all these extremely tough karma and upasana. I can't imagine anybody in current day world who follows all that. There may be a few people, I don't know. Certainly not visible in our circles. Who can hope to get to Brahmaloka? Why do you want to go to Brahmaloka? Because I want to gain Upadesha from Brahmaji. What is the Upadesha you're going to get? Tattvamasi. Shastra itself says, Brahmavit Brahmaiva Bhavati. There are Brahmavit here available to you as teachers. They are the same as Brahman. Brahma is going to tell you exactly the same thing. So why go through all that? since that is not necessary, one need not go through these extremely hard karma and upasana to gain that is available to you here and now. And if we don't make use of it as human beings, particularly as human beings who have access to the Shastra, we waste it. We saw yesterday such a person is called a Atmaha, a self-destructive person. So what should I do? Bhashyakara tells us, Tasmat
तस्मात्
तस्मात्
Atmadarshanaaya
आत्मदर्शनाय
आत्मदर्शनाय
ihaiva yatna kartavyah
इहैव
इह
यज्ञ
एव यत्नः
कर्तव्यः
कर्तव्यः
iti abhiprayah.
इति
इति
अभिप्रायः.
अभिप्रायः.
Blunt statement. Therefore, tasmat. Once you recognize that the knowledge of the self, Atma Darshanam, Samyak Darshanam, is the solution, is the knowledge that a jignasu is looking for. Clear Atma Darshanam. Don't have to go anywhere. Iha eva yatna kartavyah. May you make the effort here itself, yatna, the correct effort. Don't have to make the effort to go to Brahmaloka. That's a very difficult effort. Much easier effort. Because you've already crossed 99.99% of the way. You are a human being, Manushya. Somehow we got the Manushya Loka, Manushya Sharira. A Sharira designed for this. The Sthula Sukshma Sharira of a Manushya is designed for this. You know, every human being questions, what is the purpose of my life? Hey, you've got human Sharira. The only purpose of human Sharira is to give you the opportunity to gain moksha. There's no other purpose. All other purposes that you may set for yourself pale in comparison. That Samyak Darshanam is what is your purpose of life. So it says, Ihaiva yatna kartavyaha iti abhiprayah. This is the understanding. So don't waste time, my friend. Bend your mind to this knowledge. You have crossed most of the way. Don't be like Suryavanshi, poor fellow. 3 times he came to 97 and got out. Came within touching distance of breaking the world record of the fastest century. Don't do that. You have to start all over again, no? Somewhere, somehow you've got to find another innings where you can hit 129 balls. We are there. Do that yatna. You know what is the Rudi Artha for the word yati? One who does yatna. One who does correct yatna, proper effort. The Rudi meaning is sannyasi. Do that yatna. Whether you call yourself sannyasi, whether you wear the ochre or not, make the right effort here, now. Moksha is available to you. No, Swamiji, it's too tough. I've got too many other things to do. I will try later. When later? After retirement. Who knows you're going to be there in this form after retirement? Who knows you're going to be in this form tomorrow? You're going to make a beginning now. Tasmat Atmadarshana ihaiva yatna kartavyaha. Ihaiva idanimeva. Now. Kal kare so aaj kar, aaj kare so ab. Otherwise, you don't know what's going to happen. Shastra tells us very clearly that having got a Manushya Sharira, having got the opportunity, don't waste it. How do I do this? This is now looking very tough. Going to Brahmaloka is extremely tough. Even this doesn't look like very easy to me. How do I do this? Shastra also gives us a way forward. And connecting the next mantra, Bhashyakara gives us a very nice way forward. This is only knowledge. And it said the knowledge you have to gain here and now. Katham asau bodhavyah.
कथम
कथम्
असौ
असौ
बोधव्यः
बोधव्यः
Kim va tad avabodhe prayojanam.
किं
किं
वा
वा
तत् अवबोधे
तद्वबोधे
प्रयोजनम्
प्रयोजनम्
Ityuchyate.
इत्युच्यते
इत्युच्यते.
The next verse says, what does it say? Katham asau bodhavyah. How do I know this? How do I learn this? Assumes that you're ready, that your adhikaritvam is all done. You're already a Manushya. As a Manushya, you've done whatever you needed to get yourself ready. Buddhi is sharp and waiting. And you have the access to the words of the Shastra, access to a Guru. At that stage, Katham bodhavyah. How do I understand this knowledge? And if I understand this, what is going to be the benefit? Kim va tad avabodhe prayojanam. Two questions he's asking. If one had these two questions, having read what Dharmaraja had to say, if one has these two questions in the mind, how do I gain this knowledge? And having gained this knowledge, what will be the prayojanam? If you have these questions, iti uchyate, then the mantra tells you the answers to these questions. What does the mantra say? Indriyanam pratak bhavam
इन्द्रियाणां
पृथक्
पृथक्भावम्
भावम्
udayastamayochayat
उदयास्तमयौचयत्
pratak utpadyamananam
पृथक्
पृथक्
उत्पद्यमानानां
उत्पद्यमानानाम्
matbadhiro na shochati.
मत्वा
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 धीरो न
धीरो न
शोचति
शोचति.
That is very simple. You have to gain the clarity about Atma, Anatma. What is Atma? What is Anatma? Does Anatma exist? Or is Atma the only thing? But I do see, feel, touch, perceive Anatmas. How do I justify them? Yamadharmaraja uses Indriyas as a upachara for Anatma. All the Anatmas are different from the Atma. The whole Jagat is Anatma. What are the characteristics that make them different? One, they come into being, they remain in being, and they get destroyed in time. Everything. And Anatma is one which can be defined as saying it has Astama, Udaya and Astama in time. Some have a very short time, some have a very long time, but all in time. Atma is not like that. Atma is independent of time. Second, each one is produced differently. Anatmas all produced differently. Atma is never produced. Atma is not created. Whole Jagat, every single item in the Jagat is created. And anything that's created is an assembly. Sooner or later, all the parts will fall apart. So, if one understands this, then the next steps become very clear. There is Atma, there is Anatma, everything else is Anatma. Then it becomes very easy to understand that Atma has to be I. It is the only unchanging thing. Everything else is subject to change. The Shad Vikaras, subject to being born, subject to being destroyed, subject to change over time. Nothing remains constant. Nothing is the same in time other than Atma. So this Atma, Anatma, Viveka, in this mantra represented by the sense organs, as the representative of everything that is Anatma. And being then able to therefore separate them out. In later mantras we will see that. Like the Munjadras. To be able to cognitively separate, because you cannot separate them. If Anatma we know is Mithya, you cannot separate it from Satyam, which is the Atma. There is no physical separation. There is only a cognitive separation. It says, Indriyanam Pratak Bhavam. The distinctness of the Indriyas. What is the distinct feature? Udaya Astama. Udayastama Yau. Dvivachanam. Udayastama Yau Chayat. That which is subject to rise and fall. Rise and setting. Like we say about the sun. Rises in the east at 5:52 and sets in the west at 6:05 or whatever time. Every Indriya also like that. In fact, every Anatma is like that. Pratak Utpadyamananam. They are produced, they are created differently. They come into being separately. They don't all come in being at the same time. When one recognizes this and recognizes the self in the Atma, Matva Dhiraha, Matva is Jnatva. Dhiraha na shochati. So the prayojanam is giving now. If one can get this clarity, discriminative understanding of Atma, Anatma, and recognizing the self as Atma, Jnatva Dhira Purushaha na shochati. He started with this, saying that why am I subject to sorrow? I know that I can have moments of happiness. Why am I being subject to sorrow? Once you know this, there is no sorrow. There is no sense that I'm subject to sorrow. Dhira Purushaha iti matva na shochati. Not only that, what happens to all the indriyas? They rise and they die. Every day during sleep, they also become unmanifest. And again become manifest the next day. If something has to go unmanifest and remanifest, in what will it become unmanifest? That is I, the Atma. This is the understanding, the clarity of understanding, which leads to jnanam, which is moksha. Once recognize the distinction of the self organs, sense organs, which are separately created, and recognize their rising and setting, a discriminative person recognizes the self as Atma and therefore is not subject to grief at all. Bhashyakara. Indriyanam,
Indriyanam,
Shotradinam,
Shrothradinam,
Shrothradinam
Swasva Vishaya Grahana Prayojanena,
Swasva Vishaya
grahana
Prayojanena,
prayojanena
Swakaranebhyah
Swakaranebhyah,
स्वकारणेभ्यः
Akashadibhyah
Akashadibhyah,
आकाशादिभ्यः
Pritag Utpadyamananam.
Prutak
पृथक्
Utpadyamananam,
उत्पद्यमानानाम्
Stop here. All the indriyas, which are the indriya? Shrotradi. They are all have their own sense objects. Swasva Vishaya Grahana Prayojanena. So indriyas are there. Shrotra, Tvak, Chakshuhu, Rasanam, and Prana. Grana, smell. These have their own objects. Shotram comes from Akasha. The Sukshma Akasha has this quality of Shotram, and the object is Shabda Grahanam. We've studied all this in Tattva Bodha. Tvak associated with Vayu. And Sparsha. First Panchabhutas, first one which has Rupa is Agni. Chakshuhu. Agni. Has Rupa as its Vishaya. And Rasana. Taste. Apaha has Rasa as its Vishaya. And Prithvi, the last of the Panchabhutas, we are talking about Sukshma Panchabhutas, Apachikrita Bhutas, Granam, Gandhagranam is the object of that. This we know. These Indriyanam, Shotradinam, Swasva Vishaya Grahana Prayojanena. They are born of the five Tanmatras. They have their own Karana. Shotra is born of Akasha. Tvak is born of Vayu. Chakshu is born of Agni. Rasana is born of Apaha. And Grana is born of Prithvi. In their Sukshma form. With the specific purpose of a sense object, grasping a sense object. Swasva Vishaya Grahana Prayojanena. You go back to Tattvabodha, I'll tell you. Akashasya Visayam Shabda Grahanam. Vayu Vishayam Sparsha Grahanam. Chakshu or Agni Vishaya Rupa Grahanam. Apaha Rasana Grahanam. And Prithvi Gandha Grahanam. They all have their own. And these are separate from the Atma. These are all Anatma. Born of specific causes, for a specific purpose, which is how again anything that is born, anything that's created is born of a Karanam with a purpose. And all these purposes have to do eventually to the bhoga of karma phala. All sense organs, sense objects, everything is created only so that the jiva, in the form it takes as a manushya or any other form, can undergo experience of whatever karma phala it is supposed to experience. Atma is not like that. Can you see them separately? These are created from a karanam with a purpose, and therefore very different from the Atma. Whose characteristics, for want of a better word, I'm using characteristics, we will look at in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti 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 Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om
Om Swami.
ಧನ್ಯವಾದ